How to avoid senile dementia with simple exercises and compliance with simple recommendations. Dementia or senile dementia is diagnosed annually in about 10 million people around the world. No one is immune from this disease, but there are effective methods for the prevention of dementia that will help delay the onset of degenerative changes. Dementia affects not only the person himself, but also his entire family. This is a powerful psychological burden, as well as economic and social losses. In most cases, the cause of senile dementia is Alzheimer's disease. It accounts for about 70% of cases. In general, there are a lot of different forms of dementia. According to statistics, women are more likely to suffer from degenerative brain changes in old age. This is associated with a gene factor, and gene mutations are an unpredictable process, and modern science will not be able to say with certainty whether a particular person has a risk of developing dementia. This once again confirms that everyone is at risk, and it is in our power to reduce this risk. How does the disease manifest itself? As a rule, at the moment when the disease begins to manifest itself, the processes are already running much earlier than the first symptoms appeared. These changes already exist and cannot be corrected, but it is possible to slow down the process of degeneration. The first thing that suffers is memory. With the development of the disease, the symptoms become clearer and more obvious, but at first simple forgetfulness can be attributed to fatigue and overload. The patient loses the ability to remember information. Accordingly, his working capacity does not just fall, it comes to naught, and a person has to quit his job. As dementia progresses, it becomes noticeable that a person remembers the events of a long time ago, but does not remember what he was told 5 minutes ago. The patient begins to get confused and forget the names of people. It becomes difficult for him to navigate even in his own apartment. Accordingly, such a person will not be able to live alone, he will need help. There are also changes in behavior. Senile dementia sufferers begin to wander aimlessly, asking the same question several times. In the later stages, the patient can barely distinguish even the closest people, ceases to navigate in space, and loses track of time. Such a person will no longer be able to serve himself independently, and moreover, even aggressiveness may be observed in his behavior. There is no cure for this disease, but it is worth following some rules that will help avoid the development of senile senility in the future. First, healthy sleep. Observe the daily routine. Try to go to bed at the same time so that the body is set up for sleep and there are no problems falling asleep. If you still find it difficult to fall asleep, exclude coffee and alcohol in the evening, and even more so before going to bed. But a cup of coffee in the morning reduces the risk of developing dementia. It has been scientifically proven that this invigorating drink contains in its composition a special compound that prevents the development of Alzheimer's disease. And a cup of coffee a day will help you remember information better. Caffeine is found not only in coffee, but also in tea. Therefore, if you are not a coffee lover, drink tea. And it is desirable if the drink is without added sugar or milk. Communicate as much as possible and with different people. If you think it's too late to establish social ties, and you don't have any friends at all, then know that you can and should always communicate. Who prevents you from signing up for any mass classes, such as dancing, fitness? You can make new acquaintances anywhere, at work, in the store, on a walk. A person is a social being, and communication affects not only the quality of a person's life, but also their health. Speaking of health, monitor your well-being and monitor your blood sugar, blood pressure, and weight. Get rid of bad habits and acquire new ones that are useful for your health. Do not forget about physical activity, because physical activity slows down the aging process of the brain. Instead of watching the series lying on the couch, choose a walk with friends in the park. This way you will combine several useful recommendations at once. You will get communication and physical activity. High levels of cholesterol and glucose in the blood accelerate the aging of the brain, and a simple Mediterranean diet will help to keep these indicators normal. It includes unlimited vegetables and fruits, whole grains, nuts, fish, olive oil, and a minimum of dry red wine. No matter how old you are, learn new things, whether it's additional education, driving school, or learning a foreign language. It's never too late to learn, especially since it's very important for the brain. Just as muscles begin to atrophy without physical exertion, so the brain becomes more susceptible to negative changes without intellectual exertion. By the way, an interesting conclusion was reached by scientists from Australia who studied the data of 5,000 people aged 69 to 87 years. And you know what? Those who knew how to handle gadgets and computers were much less likely to suffer from senile dementia. So if your elderly relatives decide to master the smartphone and the internet and ask you for help, do not dismiss and underestimate their abilities. It's not even the result that will be more important here, but the process itself. Games and tasks for logic, crosswords, Sudoku, puzzles, take them into service. In the end, even an elementary check of a child's homework or help in its implementation will help keep the brain in good shape. By the way, scientists have found out that playing Tetris is a particularly effective occupation against dementia. A study was conducted, according to the results of which the memory and intelligence indicators of Tetris players were significantly higher, and this applies only to those who do not suffer from dementia. But in those whose brains have already been affected by the disease, there were no changes due to playing Tetris. And this only means that prevention should be started long before the onset of old age. Needlework, sewing, knitting or crocheting, pottery, all this develops the brain well and activates areas that have not been involved for a long time, forming new neural connections there. And this means that the brain will age more slowly and retain its cognitive functions longer. Another study by neuroscientists has shown that those who can play a musical instrument have a higher chance of avoiding dementia in old age. This activity stimulates brain activity and prevents the loss of short-term memory. Sunlight is also important. Do not stay at home too long, go out into the fresh air regardless of the weather. Just force yourself to go outside, even if you don't feel like it. Believe me, you will thank yourself and you will never regret the decision to leave the premises. Plus, walking in nature improves mood and helps to avoid depression and other nervous disorders that negatively affect the health of the brain. There is also a special gymnastics that trains the brain. We decided to introduce you to the simplest exercise that absolutely everyone can do. The exercise is so simple that you could not imagine. You just need to raise your hands to chest level and with half-bent fingers begin to touch the fingers of the second hand, pad to pad. It is necessary to perform the exercises for 3 minutes and repeat at least 4 times a week, and preferably daily. Try it right now. Is it working? We are sure that yes, but there is something to train, starting from the speed of the exercise and ending with the accuracy of hits. It is unlikely that each of you manages not to miss. Rest assured, in a week you will notice the first results. Hits will be more accurate, and you will already be able to increase the speed of performing touches. There should be tension in the fingertips and perhaps even a slight pain or tingling. This means that the exercise is being performed correctly. In the 3rd week of practice, you may already notice an improvement in memory. It will become easier for you to remember the entire list of products that you have planned to buy or the bus schedule. Well, after another week, the fingers will move even faster and more accurately, and the pain that was felt earlier will pass. This exercise can be easily performed anywhere, at home, at work, in transport, while walking. By the way, it should be noted that if you perform this exercise while walking, the task will become more complicated and it will be more difficult for you to hit the target. The fact is that in this case, more areas of the brain will be involved. Here's a hint for you on how to complicate the exercises when, it would seem, there is nowhere else to improve. Dementia is serious and scary. No one wants to lose their mind in old age. It is very important to keep a solid memory and a healthy active brain. And it is in our power. Follow simple recommendations, nourish the brain not only with proper and healthy food, but also with intellectual loads. Develop, read, walk, communicate. Isn't this what is necessary for a happy life?